The night you're about to experience no longer exists. In the wooden city of Edo, during the 2.5 centuries from 1603 to 1868, rest was fragile, earned, and shaped by the weight of duty. You trained with swords, managed households, and listened for the bells that told you when to dim the lamps. Then in 1887, electricity arrived. The city grew taller, louder, and relentless. Tonight, we walk you through 400 years of nightfall, from the last quiet evening of the samurai to the neon glow of a city that forgot how to sleep. We begin at dawn, before the light touches the wooden walls. Before we settle in, if you enjoy these relaxing journeys into the past, like the video and subscribe for more quiet history evenings. If there's a part of today you want to let go, or a memory tonight brings back, share it below. Now let's get comfortable and ease into tonight's journey. You open your eyes in the stillness that comes just before dawn. The air is cool and carries the faint scent of wood smoke from a neighbour's banked fire. Outside, Edo sleeps in near silence, broken only by the distant sound of a dog barking or a night watchman's wooden clappers fading down an alley. Your futon is thin but warm, and for a moment you stay beneath the quilted cover, feeling the weight of another day settling into your chest before it has even begun. You sit up slowly, your back stiff from yesterday's training. The room is dark except for the faint glow of embers in the brazier. You reach for the small bucket of water you filled last night and splash your face. The cold bites your skin and clears your mind. You dry your hands on a cloth and kneel on the tatami mat, feeling the woven surface firm beneath your knees. The house is quiet. Your wife and children still sleep in the next room. Your father's breathing is steady and slow from the corner where he rests. You light a stick of incense at the household shrine. The thin curl of smoke rises in the stillness, carrying the scent of sandalwood into the air. You bow your head and close your eyes, offering a silent prayer to your ancestors and the spirits that protect this home. The ritual is brief but necessary. It reminds you that you're part of something larger than yourself, that your actions today will either honour or shame the generations that came before you. Your plain cotton robe hangs on a peg near the door. You pull it on and tie the sash with care, feeling the familiar weight of the fabric against your shoulders. Nearby, your daisho, the paired swords, rest on a wooden stand. The long katana and the shorter wakizashi gleam faintly in the dim light. You do not touch them yet. That'll come later, when you leave the house and step into your role as a samurai. For now, you are simply a man preparing his mind for the day ahead. You kneel again, this time in the center of the room, and begin your Zen meditation. This Zazen practice is not about emptying your mind, but about developing the focus and self-control that will carry you through the hours ahead. You breathe in slowly through your nose, counting 1. You breathe out through your mouth, counting 2. The rhythm is steady and deliberate. Your thoughts drift yesterday's argument with a merchant, the stack of tax records waiting on your desk, your son's clumsy sword grip during practice, but you let them pass without holding on. You return to your breath. 3, 4, 5. The smell of green tea begins to drift into the room. Your wife has risen and started the morning fire. You hear the soft clatter of the kettle being set on the brazier, the quiet rustle of her kimono as she moves through the kitchen. The scent mingles with the tatami and the incense, creating a layered atmosphere that feels both grounding and familiar. This is the same smell that greeted you yesterday and will greet you tomorrow. It is one of the few constants in a world where fire, famine, or a lord's whim can upend everything in a single night. You finish your meditation and rise to your feet. Your knees ache slightly, but the pain is dull and expected. You are not old, but you are no longer young. The morning stretches and breathing exercises have become more important with each passing year. You move through a series of slow, deliberate stretches, feeling your muscles wake and lengthen. Your body is a tool, and like any tool, it requires maintenance if it is to serve you well. The morning meal is waiting when you enter the small dining area. Your wife kneels across from you, her face calm and composed. She does not speak unless spoken to, but her presence is steady and reassuring. The meal follows the Ichiju Sansai principle. 1 soup, 3 sides, that structures every proper samurai meal. You have a bowl of white rice, a small portion of miso soup with seaweed and tofu, pickled vegetables, and a sliver of grilled fish. You eat slowly, chewing each bite with care. The rice is warm and slightly sticky. The soup is salty and comforting. The pickles are sharp and crisp. You do not rush. The morning meal is not just about filling your stomach. It is about setting the tone for the day. Every motion, lifting the chopsticks, bringing the rice to your mouth, setting the bowl down, is done with intention. You know that tonight, when you return home exhausted, you will remember this meal. You will remember the quiet, the warmth, the small act of care that your wife has prepared for you. You finish your tea and set the cup down gently. The liquid is pale green and slightly bitter, a reminder that life is not always sweet, but can still be good. You bow your head briefly to your wife in thanks, and she returns the gesture. No words are needed. This is the language of your household, built over years of shared mornings and shared burdens. You stand and return to the room where your swords wait. You lift the daisho from the stand and tuck them into your sash, the weight settling against your hip. The blades are sharp and well maintained. You have never used them in true combat, and you hope you never will. But wearing them marks you as a samurai, a servant and guardian of the order that keeps this fragile city from falling into chaos. The day's rhythm has begun. You feel it in your breath, in your posture, in the way your mind has quieted after the meditation and the meal. The discipline you practice now will determine the quality of rest you find when darkness falls. Rest must be earned through mindful action, and the night's peace is built from the first breath of morning. You move toward the door, ready to meet what the day requires. The training yard waits in the morning light. The air is cool and damp, carrying the scent of earth and wet straw. Your breath forms small clouds in the chill. The yard is small, bordered by bamboo and pine, just large enough for a dozen deliberate strikes. You are alone. Most mornings you train alone. The city is waking, but here, in this quiet corner of your modest compound, the only sound is the creak of bamboo swaying in the breeze. You draw your sword slowly, the blade slide in from the scabbard, with a whisper of steel onward. This is Yai Jutsu, the art of drawing with speed and intention. Even in this long piece, the readiness itself is the duty. The discipline of the draw, the focus required to maintain your skills when no battle calls for them. This is what keeps the warrior spirit alive. You hold the grip firmly, but not too tightly, feeling the silk cord wrap against your palm. You breathe in, hold, then draw in a single smooth arc. The blade cuts the air with a sharp hiss. You freeze in position, checking your stance, your weight distribution, the angle of the blade. Then you return the sword to its scabbard and begin again. You repeat this 20 times, 30, until your shoulders burn and your focus sharpens to a single point. Your role is not what the stories tell. You are not a warrior riding into battle on horseback, banner streaming behind you. You are a low-ranking samurai in the service of a minor lord, and your life is split between the sword and the scroll. Most days, you will never face an enemy. Most days, you sit at a desk with ink-stained fingers, recording grain yields and settling land disputes. But the training continues because it must. The self-control and readiness you cultivate in this yard are not just for combat that may never come. They are the foundation of who you are meant to be. You move to the centre of the yard where a bundle of straw stands upright, lashed tightly with rope. This is tameshigiri, test cutting. You grip the sword with both hands, align your body, and strike. The blade meets resistance, then cuts through, the straw falling cleanly in 2 pieces. You feel the feedback in your wrists and forearms, the moment of contact and release. You check the cut. Clean. No jagged edges. The blade is sharp, your technique sounds. You reset the straw and strike again. Each cut teaches you something about the sword, about your body, about the discipline required to deliver force with precision. By mid-morning, your hands are sore and your legs ache from holding a stance. You return the sword to its stand and walk inside to wash. The water is cold from the well, and you scrub your hands and face, feeling the grit of the training yard rinse away. You change into a lighter robe, one meant for indoor work, and sit at your low desk near the window. The sunlight slants across the tatami, warming the space. Your inkstone, brushes, and a stack of papers wait for you. You are a scribe today, an assistant to the magistrate, a record keeper. You dip your brush in the ink and begin copying tax receipts from the surrounding villages. The characters must be clear and precise. A single mistake could lead to confusion, dispute, or even violence between neighbours arguing over rice allocations. You write slowly, forming each stroke with the same focus you brought to the sword. Your back hunches over the desk. Your neck stiffens. The morning's physical exertion fades into a different kind of exhaustion. The tedium of bureaucracy, the weight of small decisions that ripple outward into the community. Between tax records, you review a dispute between 2 farmers over a boundary line. You read their testimonies, sketch a rough map of the contested land, and draft a recommendation for the magistrate to review. Later, you will accompany him to the site, standing quietly as he delivers judgment. Your sword's marking you as his authority. You are a magistrate assistant, an engineer's aide when the irrigation channels need repair, a scribe when documents must be prepared, and an occasional bodyguard when your lord travels through the city. Your day is a careful balance of blade and bureaucracy, and both demand the same attention to detail. The contrast is constant. Your hands that grip the sword must also hold the brush. Your mind that calculates strike angles must also calculate rice distributions and water rights. You move between violence and order, between the possibility of death and the mundane reality of governance. The sword reminds you of your status, but the ledger defines your daily life. You are a servant, and the word samurai itself means exactly that, to serve. The sun climbs higher, and the room grows warmer. You set down your brush and stretch your shoulders, rolling your neck to ease the stiffness. Your stomach tightens with hunger, a reminder that discipline requires fuel. The morning has demanded both physical and mental effort, and you feel the dual exhaustion settling into your bones. You stand and look out the window at the training yard. The straw bundle still stands where you left it, split and leaning slightly to one side. Tomorrow you will do this again. The drills, the cutting, the paperwork, the careful navigation of duty and expectation. Your wife appears in the doorway, her footsteps soft on the tatami. She bows slightly and tells you the midday meal is ready. You nod and follow her to the dining area, grateful for the pause. The low table holds your midday meal in a careful arrangement. You settle into seiza posture, your knees pressing into the tatami, your back straight, your hands resting lightly on your thighs. The position is formal and deliberate, a posture you have held since childhood. Your wife kneels across from you, arranging the dishes with quiet precision. She does not speak. The only sound is the soft clink of ceramic bowls being placed on the wooden surface between you. The meal follows the Ichiju Sansai structure, you know by heart. 1 soup, 3 sides. Rice in a lacquered bowl, steam rising in delicate wisps. Miso soup in a smaller bowl. The scent of fermented soybean paste, mingling with the faint smell of seaweed and tofu floating beneath the surface. A small plate of pickled vegetables, their colours bright against the dark wood. Pale green cucumber, deep orange carrot, purple eggplant, all sliced thin and glistening with brine. A piece of grilled fish, its skin crisp and golden, resting on a simple plate. A cup of green tea, pale and clear, waiting to be sipped. You lift your chopsticks and bow your head briefly, a silent gesture of thanks. Not to anyone in particular, but to the food itself, to the hands that prepared it, to the earth and water that made it possible. Then you begin. You lift a small portion of rice to your mouth, chewing slowly, feeling the grains separate on your tongue. The texture is soft and slightly sticky, the flavour mild and comforting. You set the chopsticks down and reach for the soup, bringing the bowl to your lips with both hands. The liquid is warm and salty, the tofu soft and yielding, the seaweed slippery and faintly sweet. Every movement is measured. You do not rush, you do not speak. Eating is not casual here. It is another form of discipline, a ritual that requires the same mindfulness and self-control you bring to the sword or the brush. You place the soup bowl back on the table and reach for the pickles, lifting a single slice of cucumber with your chopsticks. The brine is sharp and tangy, cutting through the richness of the miso. You chew slowly, letting the flavours settle before swallowing. The fish comes next. You break off a small piece with your chopsticks, feeling the crisp skin give way to the soft, flaky flesh beneath. The taste is mild and clean, with a hint of salt and smoke from the grilling. You eat it piece by piece, pausing between bites to sip your tea. The tea is slightly bitter, a counterpoint to the fish, and it clears your palate, preparing you for the next bite. You sit straight throughout the meal, your posture never wavering. Your breathing is even and steady. The room is quiet except for the soft sounds of eating, the clink of chopsticks against ceramic, the gentle slurp of soup being sipped, the rustle of your wife's kimono as she shifts slightly to refill your tea. Outside, you hear the distant sound of voices from the street, a cart passing, a child calling to someone. But inside, the world is small and contained, reduced to this table, this food, this moment. The meal is simple, but it is enough. It restores your body after the morning's exertion, giving you energy for the afternoon's work. But it does more than that. It restores your focus. The act of eating with care, with attention, with gratitude, quiets the noise in your mind. The worries from the morning, the tax records, the land dispute, the unease that comes from knowing your skills may never be tested in true combat, so all of it fades for a moment. You're simply here, present, tending to the basic need of nourishment. You finish the last of the rice, scraping the bowl clean with your chopsticks. You drink the remaining tea, feeling the warmth travel down your throat and settle in your stomach. You set the cup down gently and bow your head again, this time to your wife. She returns the gesture, her face calm and composed. She gathers the dishes without a word and carries them away, leaving you alone at the table. You remain kneeling for a moment longer, letting your body absorb the meal, letting your mind rest in the quiet. The afternoon stretches ahead of you. More training, perhaps, more paperwork, a meeting with a neighbour about a boundary dispute, small decisions that ripple through the community, small actions that either uphold or erode the fragile order you are sworn to maintain. But for now, you have paused. You have given yourself this moment of care. You know that tonight, when you return home exhausted, when your shoulders ache and your mind is scattered from the day's demands, you will remember this meal. You will remember the warmth of the soup, the crispness of the pickles, the quiet presence of your wife across the table. You will remember that you took the time to eat well, to sit properly, to honour the food and the ritual, and that memory will be part of the rest you earn when darkness falls. You rise slowly from seiza, feeling the stiffness in your knees, the slight ache in your lower back. You stretch briefly, rolling your shoulders. The afternoon light has shifted, softer now through the paper screens. Your desk waits, but so does something else. Your brush and inkstone sit ready beside the scrolls. The afternoon asks for a different kind of attention, a quieter discipline that balances the morning's physical demands. You reach for the brush, its wooden handle lighter than the sword grip, but demanding the same focus. The afternoon light has softened, filtering through the paper screens in pale gold. You kneel at your low desk near the window, a sheet of white paper spread before you, smooth and unmarked. The inkstone sits to your right, already ground with water into a dark, glossy pool. You dip the brush, feeling the bristles absorb the liquid, then lift it slowly and let the excess drip back into the stone. The first stroke is always the hardest. You hold your breath and move the brush across the paper in a single fluid line, feeling the resistance of the fibres, the way the ink spreads and settles. The stroke is not perfect. It wobbles slightly near the end. You set the brush down and study the line, considering what went wrong. Your grip was too tight. Your shoulder tensed. You were thinking about the result instead of the motion itself. You try again on a fresh sheet. This time, you breathe steadily, keeping your wrist loose and your focus narrow. The stroke flows more smoothly, the lines strong and confident. You continue, forming characters slowly, each one a test of control. The practice is called calligraphy, and it is not just about writing. It is about expressing your inner state, your discipline, your character with every movement of the brush. A hurried stroke reveals a hurried mind. A shaky line reveals doubt. The brush does not lie. After an hour, your hand aches and your neck is stiff from bending over the desk. You set the brush aside and reach for a thin volume of Confucian texts, bound in faded cloth. The pages are yellowed and worn from years of reading. You open to a familiar passage about duty and loyalty, about the right way to live in relation to others. The words are simple, but dense with meaning. You read slowly, considering each phrase, each idea. These teachings shape how you see the world, how you understand your place in it. They guide your choices every day. How you speak to your wife, how you correct your son, how you settle disputes between neighbours. You close the book after reading a single page. That is enough. The text is meant to be absorbed slowly, reflected upon, not consumed in a rush. You stand and stretch, feeling the tightness in your shoulders, ease. The afternoon is still young, and there is more to do. You walk to the small room at the back of the house, a space reserved for the tea ceremony. The room is plain and quiet, with tatami mats on the floor and a single scroll hanging on the wall. The scroll shows a simple ink painting of bamboo bending in the wind, a reminder of flexibility and strength. You kneel and begin preparing the tea, following the movements you have practiced for years. This ritual, shaped by Zen Buddhism, is not merely about drinking tea. It is spiritual training, a way to cultivate presence and inner stillness. You scoop powdered green tea into a ceramic bowl, then pour hot water from a kettle over it. You whisk the mixture with a bamboo whisk, moving in slow, deliberate circles until the tea becomes frothy and smooth. Every gesture is precise. Every breath is measured. The tea ceremony is built on 4 principles: harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility. These are not just words. They are qualities you cultivate through each careful motion, each moment of stillness. You lift the bowl with both hands and drink, tasting the bitter, earthy flavour of the tea. The warmth spreads through your chest and you feel your mind quiet. The ceremony takes time, but that is the point. It teaches you to be fully present, to give your attention to one simple act without distraction. The same focus you bring to the sword, you bring here. The same discipline required in combat is required in making tea. When the ceremony's finished, you rinse the bowl and set it aside. You step outside into the small garden behind your home. The space is narrow, bordered by wooden fences and bamboo. A few stones are arranged on a bed of raked gravel, and a single pine tree grows in the corner, its branches twisted and gnarled with age. You kneel beside the tree and examine its needles, checking for signs of disease or pests. You prune a few dead branches with small shears, your movements careful and unhurried. You rake the gravel in long, even lines, creating a pattern that suggests flowing water. The work is simple and repetitive, but it brings a sense of calm. The garden is not meant to be perfect. It is meant to reflect the beauty of imperfection, the acceptance of change and decay. The stones are weathered. The tree is old and crooked. The gravel shifts with every passing season. This is the idea of wabi-sabi, the beauty found in things that are humble, worn, and impermanent. As you work, you think about the virtues you're meant to embody: righteousness in your actions, benevolence toward those weaker than you, respect in every interaction, sincerity in your words. These are not things you practice only in moments of crisis or importance. They are woven into the quiet hours of the afternoon, into the act of forming a character with a brush, preparing tea with care, tending a garden with patience. The day's cultural work, the calligraphy, the reading, the tea, the garden, softens the edges of martial discipline. It reminds you that strength without wisdom is dangerous, that power without beauty is empty. The sword and the brush must be held with equal skill. The warrior and the poet must live in the same body. The sun has moved lower, casting longer shadows across the gravel. You set down the rake and brush the dust from your hands. The air has begun to cool, and you hear the faint sounds of the household stirring inside. It is time to return. You step back inside, and the household has already begun to shift toward evening. The light filtering through the wooden slats has deepened to amber, casting long shadows across the tatami. You hear the quiet sounds of preparation, footsteps moving with purpose, the rustle of fabric, the low murmur of voices from the kitchen. You remove your sandals at the entrance and feel the cool smoothness of the floor beneath your feet. The smell of burning charcoal drifts through the house, mingling with the faint scent of incense that always lingers in the corners. Your wife moves through the rooms with quiet efficiency. She does not greet you with words, but you see her glance in your direction, a brief acknowledgement that you have returned. She manages the household with skill and authority, overseeing every detail, from the meals to the budget to the education of your children. Her role is not public, but it is essential. Without her steady hand, the house would fall into disorder, and disorder in the home means disorder in the mind. She is preparing the evening meal now, her movements practiced and sure. You trust her completely, and that trust is part of what allows you to rest when the day finally ends. Your eldest son kneels in the next room, practicing his calligraphy. You watch him from the doorway for a moment, noting the way he grips the brush, the tension in his shoulders, the slight wobble in his strokes. He's trying too hard, forcing the characters instead of letting them flow. You step into the room and kneel beside him. You do not speak at first, you simply place your hand over his, guiding the brush through a single stroke, feeling the resistance ease as his grip loosens. He looks up at you, and you nod once. He tries again, and this time the line is cleaner, more confident. You rise and leave him to his practice. The lesson is small, but it will stay with him. This is how values are transmitted, not through speeches, but through quiet correction, through the example you set in every small action. Your daughter sits near the hearth helping her mother prepare vegetables for the evening meal. She is young, but she is already learning the skills she will need to manage her own household one day. She watches her mother closely, mimicking the way she holds the knife, the way she arranges the cut pieces on the plate. These lessons are not taught with words. They are absorbed through observation, through quiet repetition, through the steady example of daily life. You see your wife glance at her daughter with approval, and you feel a quiet satisfaction, knowing that this continuity will outlast you. Your elderly father sits near the hearth, his back resting against a wooden post, his eyes half closed. His presence is a constant reminder of the generations that came before you, the unbroken line that stretches backward into memory and forward into your children's future. You kneel beside him and bow your head in respect. He opens his eyes and nods slightly. No words pass between you, but the gesture is enough. He has lived through wars, famines, and the slow erosion of the old ways. His survival is a kind of wisdom, and you honour it by maintaining the traditions he taught you. A visitor arrives as the sun dips lower. You hear the knock at the door, the formal greeting exchanged in the entryway. It is a fellow samurai, a man of similar rank, come to return a piece of calligraphy you lent him weeks ago. You meet him in the small receiving room, and the two of you kneel across from each other, the scroll placed carefully between you. He compliments the brushwork, and you deflect the praise with a modest response. The exchange is governed by etiquette, by the careful dance of rank and respect that defines every interaction in your world. You discuss a neighbour's dispute over water rights, speaking in low tones, weighing the options. The conversation is brief but important. These small decisions, handled well, prevent larger conflicts. Handled poorly, they can ignite like dry wood. You speak little throughout the evening, but your presence steadies the household. Your children watch you closely, learning not from your words but from your actions, your posture, your quiet authority. They see how you treat your wife with respect, how you honour your father, how you receive guests with courtesy. These are the lessons that will shape them long after you're gone. Living with honour is not a grand gesture performed once. It is a series of small choices made every day, in every interaction, when no one is watching and when everyone is. You feel the weight of maintaining harmony in a world where disorder can spread quickly. A careless word, a moment of disrespect, a failure to honour the small rituals that bind people together. Any of these can unravel the delicate order you have worked all day to uphold. But tonight, as you look around your home, you see that the threads still hold. Your wife is competent and steady. Your children are learning. Your father is at peace. The household is in balance, and that balance will carry you through the night. The smell of rice and miso soup grows stronger. Your wife moves toward the low table, setting down bowls and chopsticks with care. Your children begin to gather, their day's lessons complete. Your father shifts from his place near the hearth, preparing to join the family. The evening meal is ready, and it is time to come together. You gather at the low table as lamplight fills the room with a soft, flickering glow. The small flame inside the paper lantern casts gentle shadows across the tatami mats. Outside, the light has faded to deep blue, and the air has cooled. You hear the distant sound of wooden shutters closing, neighbours securing their homes for the night. Inside, the world is small and warm, reduced to this table, these faces, this shared meal. Your wife kneels across from you, arranging the dishes with quiet care. Your eldest son sits to your right, his posture straight, his hands folded in his lap. Your daughter kneels beside her mother, her eyes watchful and alert. Your father sits near the hearth, his face lined and peaceful in the lamplight. The family's complete, gathered as you do every evening, and the ritual of this gathering carries a weight beyond the food itself. The meal is simple, steamed rice in lacquered bowls, still warm and faintly sweet. Miso soup with tofu and seaweed, the steam rising in delicate wisps. Pickled vegetables arranged on a small plate, their colours bright against the dark wood. A piece of grilled fish, the skin crisp and golden, resting on a ceramic dish. Green tea, pale and clear, waits in handleless cups. The food is wholesome and nourishing, a welcome contrast to the day's demands. You bow your head briefly, and the family follows. The gesture is quick but deliberate, a moment of gratitude before the meal begins. You lift your chopsticks and take a small portion of rice, chewing slowly. The others follow your lead, and the room fills with the soft sounds of eating. the quiet clink of chopsticks against ceramic, the gentle slurp of soup, the rustle of clothing as someone shifts position. You set down your chopsticks and look at your eldest son. He has been struggling with his sword drills, his stance too wide, his grip too tight. This morning you watched him practice in the yard, and you saw the frustration in his movements, the way he forced the blade instead of letting it move naturally. You speak quietly, your voice low and measured. You tell him that strength without control is wasted, that the sword responds to intention, not force. You offer correction, but you also praise the effort, the dedication to practice, even when the results feel distant. He listens without interrupting, his eyes focused on his bowl. You see the tension in his shoulders ease slightly. He nods once, a small gesture of understanding. Your daughter watches this exchange closely, absorbing the lesson even though it was not meant for her. She learns from what she hears and what she observes, storing away the principles that will shape her own life when she manages a household of her own. Your wife speaks next, sharing news from the neighbourhood. Two families are arguing over a shared well, each accusing the other of taking more than their fair share. The dispute has been simmering for weeks, and now voices are being raised in the streets. You listen carefully, considering the implications. Small disputes, if left unattended, can grow into larger threats to the fragile order of the wooden city. A careless word becomes a shove becomes a fight in a city built of wood and paper can end in fire. You ask questions, gathering details. Who are the families? How long has the well been shared? What do the neighbours say? Your wife answers with precision, and you realise that she's already gathered more information than you would have thought to ask for. She understands the web of relationships that holds the community together, the quiet obligations and unspoken alliances that keep peace. You tell her you'll speak to both families tomorrow, that you'll hear their grievances and propose a solution. She nods, satisfied that the matter will be addressed. The conversation shifts to lighter topics. Your son mentions a scroll he has been reading, a collection of poems about the changing seasons. Your daughter describes a flower she saw blooming near the gate, its petals white and delicate. Your father speaks briefly about the garden, suggesting that the pine tree needs pruning before winter arrives. The talk is gentle and unhurried, weaving together the small threads of daily life into a shared story. The act of eating together, in silence or soft conversation, binds the household in shared purpose. The meal is not just about nourishment, it is about connection, about reinforcing the bonds that hold the family together against the uncertainty of the world outside. In this quiet hour, the values you carry, loyalty, duty, respect, are not abstract ideas but lived realities. They are present in the way you speak to your son, in the way your wife manages the household's concerns, in the way your children watch and learn. You finish your rice and set the bowl down gently. You sip your tea, feeling the warmth settle in your chest. The day's weight begins to lift, not completely, but enough. You know that your children will carry forward what you have modelled today. They will remember this evening, the calm, the guidance, the quiet respect that governed every word and gesture. Your wife begins to clear the dishes, and your daughter rises to help. Your son bows to you and excuses himself to continue his calligraphy practice. Your father remains by the hearth, his eyes half closed, content. You sit for a moment longer, feeling the stillness settle around you. The meal has ended, but the night is not yet complete. There are still tasks to finish, small acts of care that will secure the household and allow you at last to rest. You rise from the table and move through the house, your footsteps soft on the tatami, barely audible in the quiet that has settled over the household. The air has cooled since sunset, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke from neighbouring hearths. You feel the temperature shift as you move from room to room, the warmth of the main hall giving way to the cooler air near the outer walls. The evening's final task is to secure the home, not just against intruders, but against fire, the greatest existential threat that haunts every wooden structure in Eto. Fire is not merely a danger here. It is the constant companion that shapes every choice you make, every precaution you take, every moment of vigilance before sleep. The city is built of wood and paper, and a single stray ember can become an inferno that swallows entire neighbourhoods in hours. You have seen it happen. Everyone has. The memory of smoke and screaming, of families fleeing into the streets with nothing but the clothes on their backs, shapes the way you move through your home each evening. You walk the perimeter, feeling the cooling air on your skin, listening for sounds that might signal trouble. The distant murmur of voices from the street has faded. You hear a dog barking somewhere far off, then silence. You reach the first shutter and slide it closed, feeling the wood catch in the groove, securing it with a small wooden pin. You move to the next window, then the next, your hands moving with practiced efficiency. Each shutter closed is a small act of protection, a barrier against the outside world. You check the hearth carefully, kneeling beside it and examining the coals. Most have burned down to ash, but a few still glow faintly orange in the dim light. You use a metal poker to spread them out, ensuring they are not clustered together, where they might retain heat and reignite. You watch for a moment, making certain no embers have rolled out onto the surrounding floor. Satisfied, you set a bucket of water near the door, a small defence against the chaos that could consume everything. The bucket is simple, wooden, and filled from the well earlier in the day. It would not stop a true fire, but it might give you precious seconds to wake your family and flee. You move through the house one more time, checking each lamp. The small oil lamps burn low, their flames steady and controlled. You adjust one that flickers, trimming the wick slightly, so it burns evenly. You leave one lamp burning near the entrance, enough light to navigate if someone needs to rise in the night. The rest you extinguish, pinching the wicks between your fingers and feeling the brief heat before the flame dies. The house is secure now, as secure as it can be. You have done what you can to protect against fire, against intruders, against the unpredictable dangers of the night. But you know that security is never absolute. The wooden walls are thin, the locks are simple. The city itself is fragile, held together by collective discipline and shared vigilance. Your safety depends not just on your own actions, but on the actions of every neighbour, every household, every person in Edo, who also checks their hearth and sets their bucket of water by the door. You return to your small room and kneel on the tatami. The futon is still rolled up in the corner, waiting to be spread out for sleep. But first you take a moment to review the day. You close your eyes and think back through the hours, considering what went well and what could have been better. The morning meditation was steady. The sword drills were adequate, though your form in the final cuts grew sloppy as fatigue set in. The afternoon's paperwork was completed without error. The dispute over the well will need attention tomorrow, but you have a plan. You consider the 7 virtues that guide your life, and where you upheld them, where you fell short. Righteousness, in your dealings with the merchant who tried to shortchange a neighbour's rice delivery. Courage, in addressing your son's mistakes without anger. Benevolence, in your patience with your father's repeated stories. Respect, in your interactions with your wife and the visiting samurai. Honesty, in your record keeping. Honour, in maintaining your duties even when no one was watching. Loyalty, to your Lord, to your family, to the principles that give your life meaning. You do not judge yourself harshly for the day's imperfections. You simply note them, acknowledge them, and resolve to do better tomorrow. This evening reflection is not about guilt or shame. It's about awareness, about maintaining the inner discipline that allows you to rest with a clear conscience. You secure the physical space and the inner space, knowing that rest requires both the absence of external threat and the presence of internal peace. The day's discipline has earned you this moment of reflection, and as you prepare your futon, you feel the quiet satisfaction of a day lived with intention. You unroll the thin mattress, spreading it carefully on the floor, then lay out the quilted cover. The bedding is simple but clean, the fabric soft from years of use. You kneel beside it and arrange your sleeping robe, laying it within reach. Everything is in its place, ready for the transition from waking to sleep. Outside, a sound rises in the distance, deep and resonant, travelling across the rooftops. The hour bell sounds across the city, deep and resonant, travelling over rooftops and through narrow streets. You pause near your futon and listen. The sound is not just marking time, it is speaking to everyone at once, a voice that binds Edo together in a single shared moment. The first 3 strikes come quickly, one after another. These are the sutagana, the warning strikes that prepare you for what comes next. You count them silently, 1, 2, 3, and you feel your body respond, your breathing slowing, your mind settling into the familiar rhythm. These preliminary strikes serve a purpose beyond simply marking the hour. They alert the bell ringers at the next temple, the next station, that it is time to pick up their mallets and continue the chain. The sound travels from one bell to the next, a relay of resonance that spreads outward from the centre of the city. The main bell strikes with a deep, measured tone, counting out the hour in a rhythm you have known since childhood. The sound is physical, vibrating through the air and settling into your chest. You feel it as much as hear it. Each strike is clear and deliberate, spaced evenly, giving the sound time to fade before the next one arrives. You count along silently, knowing exactly how many strikes will come, knowing what they mean for the shape of the night ahead. The sound travels from Hongakucho, where the first bell was installed, spreading through a network of 9 bells that surround Edo Castle. Each bell is positioned within earshot of the last, creating a chain of sound that reaches every neighbourhood, every household, every person who pauses to listen. The system is precise and efficient, designed so that the entire city hears the hour at nearly the same moment, with no delay, no confusion. This network of dedicated facilities and coordinated bell ringers represents a level of sophistication that no Western country would match even by the late 19th century. You remember learning about these bells as a child? how your father explained that they were more than just a way to tell time. They were the pulse of Edo, the heartbeat that kept the city moving in unison. When the bells rang at dawn, the city woke. When they rang at noon, merchants paused for their midday meal. When they rang at dusk, shops closed and shutters were drawn. The bells dictated the rhythm of life, a constant presence that ordered the day and guided the night. You hear another bell in the distance, slightly fainter, coming from a different direction. Then another and another, each one picking up the sequence and carrying it forward. The sound overlaps and echoes, creating a layered texture that fills the evening air. You feel the weight of this collective discipline, the knowledge that thousands of people across Edo are hearing the same sound at the same moment, responding in the same way. Lamps are being dimmed, shops are being shuttered, families are gathering indoors, all in response to this shared signal. The bells are more than a timekeeping device. They are a form of communication, a way of coordinating the behavior of an entire city without needing to speak a single word. The curfew that follows the evening bells is not enforced by patrols or punishment alone. It is upheld by the collective understanding that darkness brings risk, that fire spreads quickly through wooden houses, and that order requires everyone to participate. The bells remind you of this shared responsibility, of the fact that your safety depends on the choices of your neighbours, and theirs depends on yours. You think about the bell ringers themselves, the men who climb the temple towers each day and night, who lift their heavy mallets and strike the bronze in precise rhythm. They are part of a system that stretches across the entire country, a network of timekeepers who ensure that every city, every town, every village moves in sync. The system spread across Japan by the mid-17th century, linking communities through sound and shared rhythm. It required dedicated people, careful coordination, and a deep respect for punctuality and order. The final strike of the hour bell fades into silence, and you feel the city settle around you. The streets grow quieter. The distant voices you heard earlier have stopped. Even the dogs have ceased their barking. The night takes on a different quality now, a collective hush that feels both fragile and sacred. You know that somewhere across the city, another family is kneeling beside their futon. Another father is checking his hearth one last time. Another child is drifting into sleep. You are not alone in this moment. You are part of something larger, a city-wide agreement to pause, to rest, to lower the risk of chaos and honour the order that keeps everyone safe. You lie down on your futon, the quilted cover soft against your skin. The last bell still resonates faintly in the distance, a lingering vibration that seems to hang in the air even after the sound has stopped. You close your eyes and feel connected to every other person in Edo who is also settling into the earned quiet of the night. The discipline you practiced all day, the sword drills, the record keeping, the family obligations, the evening reflections has brought you to this moment. Rest is not simply given. It is created through collective effort, through shared rituals, through the steady accumulation of small, deliberate choices. The bells have done their work. The city sleeps. You do not know it yet, but this rhythm, this careful, bell-governed order will not endure. The world is already changing, and the night you have earned tonight will not always be yours to claim. The Meiji restoration arrives not with a single dramatic moment, but as a slow unravelling of everything you have known. You wake one morning to find the light through the window looks the same. The tatami beneath your feet feels familiar, but something fundamental has shifted. You rise and prepare for your morning meditation, kneeling in the usual spot, lighting the incense at the household shrine. The ritual feels hollow now, like performing movements in a play where the audience has left and the stage is empty. Your stipend, the rice allocation that has sustained your family for generations, shrinks year by year. The amounts grow smaller, the quality poorer. You hear whispers in the streets about new policies, new laws coming from the government. The word Meiji is repeated often, spoken with a mixture of hope and fear. Some say the country is becoming modern, stronger, and ready to stand alongside the Western powers. Others say the old ways are being destroyed, that the foundation of order is crumbling. You try to maintain your routines, the sword drills in the morning yard, the calligraphy practice in the afternoon, the evening reflection before sleep. But the world outside no longer supports these rhythms. One morning, you hear that swords are to be banned for most samurai. Only those in active military or police service may carry them. Your daisho, the paired blades that have marked your identity since you came of age, are suddenly relics. You can keep them in your home, but wearing them in public becomes a crime. You watch as former comrades find new occupations. A man who once trained beside you in the yard now teaches reading and arithmetic to merchants' children. Another becomes a clerk in a government office, hunched over Western-style ledgers, filling in columns of numbers with a pen instead of a brush. A third opens a small shop selling tea and rice, his hands that once gripped a sword now measuring out portions for housewives. They adapt because they must, but you see the confusion in their eyes, the loss of purpose that no new job can quite replace. The hour bells begin to disappear. In 1873, the government introduced a solar calendar and a fixed time system, replacing the seasonal rhythms that had governed life in Edo for centuries. The flexible hours that expanded and contracted with the seasons, that honoured the natural flow between day and night, are swept away. Mechanical clocks appear on tower buildings, their faces white and stark, their hands moving in steady, impersonal arcs. The new system values precision over adaptation, mechanical regularity over human rhythm. You hear one of the old bells ring one evening, its tone familiar and comforting. But the next week, it is silent. Then another bell stops. The chain of sound that once connected the entire city breaks link by link. The curfews that followed the evening bells fade away. People stay out later. Shops remain open after dark. The collective discipline that made the night a shared achievement dissolves, leaving only individual choice and individual risk. You try to explain to your son why the rituals still matter, why he should continue the morning meditation, even though no one outside the home will acknowledge or value it. He listens politely, but you see the doubt in his face. He is learning English now, studying mathematics and science in a new school built with Western money. His future will not require swords or calligraphy or the patient cultivation of inner discipline. His future will require speed, efficiency, and adaptation to industrial rhythms that never pause. The financial pressure grows. The stipend ends completely, replaced by bonds that promise future payment, but do little to feed your family now. You take work where you can find it, jobs that would have been beneath your dignity in the old system. You become a night watchman, for a merchant's warehouse, walking the perimeter in the darkness, checking locks and watching for thieves. The irony is not lost on you. You once upheld order as a samurai. Now you guard another man's goods for wages. The rituals persist in private, but they feel increasingly like memories rather than lived practices. You still meditate in the morning, but the meditation is coloured by anxiety about money, about your children's futures, about your own obsolescence. You still practice calligraphy, but the beautiful characters you form have no practical purpose in a world that values speed over beauty. The discipline that once earned you rest now simply marks you as someone clinging to a past that no one else remembers or wants. You lie down one night on your futon, the house quiet around you. Your wife sleeps beside you. Your children are in the next room, dreaming of futures you cannot quite envision. You close your eyes and realize that the quiet you once earned through duty has become something else entirely. It is no longer the peaceful silence of a city at rest, bound together by shared discipline and collective effort. It is simply the absence of what used to be, a silence born not of order but of obsolescence. You feel the weight of loss settle over you, like a heavy blanket. Not the dramatic loss of war or disaster, but the slow erosion of meaning, the gradual realization that the life you trained for no longer exists. Then one evening, as you walk home from your shift at the warehouse, you notice something new appearing on the streets, a harsh, steady glow that feels nothing like lamplight, bright and unblinking, even as darkness falls. The glow spreads across the city in the months that follow, transforming streets you've walked your entire life. You stand beneath one of the new electric lamps in 1887, feeling the harsh white light wash over your face. The light is cold and steady, without the warm, amber flicker of oil flames or candles. It does not dance or fade. It simply burns, constant and unblinking, pushing back the darkness with an intensity that makes you squint. The wooden post rises beside you, new wires strung between buildings, connecting this street to a power station somewhere across the city. You hear a faint hum, a sound you have never associated with light before, a mechanical presence that feels strange and intrusive. Tokyo is changing faster than you can track. The wooden houses you grew up in are being torn down and replaced with brick and stone. The narrow lanes that once twisted through neighbourhoods like threads in a tapestry are being straightened, widened, paved with stone. Western-style buildings appear along the main boulevards, their facades decorated with columns and arches that look foreign and imposing. The city that once felt small and knowable has become something larger, something that moves at a pace you cannot match. Electricity does not ask for discipline or care. It does not require you to trim a wick, to check the oil level, or to extinguish the flame before sleeping. It simply is always available, controlled by a switch on the wall. You flip it up and the room fills with light. You flip it down and darkness returns. There is no ritual, no mindfulness, no connection between the act of creating light and the responsibility that comes with it. The boundary between day and night, once so clear and carefully maintained, begins to blur. The wooden city gives way to brick and steel. The fire that once haunted every household becomes less of a threat as buildings are constructed with materials that do not burn. The bucket of water by the door, the careful inspection of the hearth, the constant vigilance, all of it becomes less necessary. Safety is built into the structure now, engineered rather than earned through collective discipline. You feel a strange mix of relief and loss. The fear is gone, but so is the shared responsibility that bound the community together. The night that once required collective effort to maintain becomes a space for commerce, entertainment, and endless activity. Shops stay open after dark, their windows glowing with electric light, displaying goods that can be purchased at any hour. Restaurants serve customers well into the night. Theatres present performances that do not end until midnight. The streets that once emptied at the sound of the hour bells now remain crowded, filled with people moving between destinations, their faces lit by the glow of street lamps and storefront signs. Factories run through the night. You hear the steady clang of machinery, the hiss of steam, the rumble of production that never pauses. Workers move in shifts, one group clocking in as another clocks out, the work continuing in an unbroken cycle. The factory whistle replaces the temple bell, marking time in a new way, dividing the day and night into units of labour rather than natural rhythms. The idea that darkness should mean rest begins to seem quaint, old-fashioned, and inefficient. Rest is now something scheduled, rationed, and fit into the gaps between shifts and obligations. You remember the bells, the curfews, the careful rituals of securing the home. You remember the way the entire city would quiet at dusk, how the streets would empty and the lamps would dim, how rest was something shared rather than individually claimed. You realize that the night you once knew, the earned, fragile quiet, has been replaced by something louder, brighter, and far less forgiving. The natural cycle that once governed life has been overridden by human invention, by the decision that darkness is an obstacle to be conquered rather than a time to be honoured. Light broke the covenant between day and night, turning rest from a shared, earned achievement into a private, strategic choice, made against a city that never stops. You must now decide when to sleep, not because the bells ring or the sun sets, but because your body demands it, because work tomorrow requires you to be functional. Rest becomes a calculated necessity rather than a natural conclusion to the day's efforts. You compete against the city's rhythm rather than moving with it. The discipline that once defined the samurai night, the meditation, the sword drills, the calligraphy, the tea ceremony, the careful securing of the home, gave way to a new kind of discipline. You must now navigate a world that offers endless options, endless distractions, and endless reasons to stay awake and engaged. The challenge is no longer to earn rest through virtuous action, but to claim rest despite a system designed to keep you moving, working, consuming. You must create boundaries where none naturally exist, must impose limits where the city offers none. You walk home through streets that glow with electric light, passing shops that will not close for hours, hearing music drift from a theatre, seeing workers emerge from a factory shift. The night is full of life, full of noise, full of opportunity, but it is also relentless, demanding, and indifferent to your need for quiet. You reach your home and step inside, closing the door behind you. The sounds of the city fade but do not disappear. You lie down and close your eyes, knowing that rest is no longer guaranteed by the structure of society, but must be defended against it. The years pass and the lights grow brighter. The city grows taller. The pace quickens. And one evening, decades later, you find yourself standing in a train station, watching the crowds surge past, feeling the weight of a day that has stretched far beyond what your ancestors would have recognized as reasonable. The discipline has not disappeared. It has simply changed form, adapted to a world that no longer pauses when darkness falls. You step off the train in Shibuya and the night surrounds you. Neon signs, crowds, noise, the hum of a city that refuses to sleep. The air is warm and thick with the smell of grilled meat, exhaust fumes, and the faint sweetness of crepes being made in a street stall. The crossing spreads out before you, a massive intersection where thousands of people flow in every direction when the light changes. Above, enormous video screens flicker and shift, advertising soft drinks, smartphones, and fashion brands. The light is everywhere, bright and relentless, turning night into a strange kind of artificial day. Modern Tokyo's night is not quiet or earned. It is dense, loud, and relentless, a space where rest must be claimed, not given. You weave through the crowd, feeling the press of bodies, hearing snatches of conversation in Japanese, English, and Korean. A group of students laughs as they pass. A salaryman in a wrinkled suit walks with his head down, exhaustion visible in every step. The city pulses around you, alive with energy, but also with a kind of desperate momentum, as if stopping would mean falling behind. You check your phone. The last train leaves soon. The Marunouchi line winds down first, its final departure at 12:15 in the morning. The Yamanote line follows at 12:44. If you miss them, you face a choice. An expensive taxi, easily 20,000 yen if you live in Saitama or Chiba. An all-night cafe where you can sit until dawn. A capsule hotel where sleep is stacked into efficient, anonymous pods, or simply waiting, riding out the hours until the first train rumbles back to life. Between 4:30 and 5 in the morning, the JR Chuo line departing Shinjuku at 4:32. You see the nocturnal economy in action all around you. A gyudon shop glows on the corner, its sign bright orange and welcoming. Inside, workers in uniforms serve cheap beef bowls over rice to a steady stream of customers. The food is fast, filling, and affordable. Chains like Yoshinoya, Sukiya, and Matsuya have over 3,000 locations across the city, each one a small refuge for people navigating the night. You watch a man in a business suit eat quickly, shoveling rice into his mouth with mechanical efficiency, then leave without a word. Farther down the street, you see a manga cafe, its entrance narrow and unassuming. Inside, the space is divided into small booths, each one containing a reclining chair, a computer screen, and shelves stacked with manga. Some booths are semi-private, offering just enough separation to feel alone. The cafe is open all night, a place where you can rest without committing to sleep, where you can pass the hours reading, browsing, or simply sitting in the dim light. A few locations even offer showers, blurring the line between internet cafe and makeshift lodging. The night is full of people, all navigating the same challenge: salarymen who stay too late at the office, students who lost track of time, shift workers heading to or from jobs that run through the darkness. Night owls prefer the city when it is less crowded. Each person makes their own calculation, weighing cost against comfort, exhaustion against convenience. You pass a capsule hotel, its entrance sleek and modern, its lobby quiet. Inside, rows of capsules stack like drawers in a filing cabinet, each one containing a thin mattress, a pillow, and a small reading light. The space is anonymous and efficient, designed for function rather than warmth. These businesses offer rest as a service, a temporary refuge purchased by the hour. It is a far cry from the earned quiet of Edo, where rest was woven into the structure of the day, where the bells rang and the city agreed to pause. Here, rest is transactional. You buy it when you need it, fitting it into the gaps between obligations. The system does not pause for you. You must navigate around it. Find the cracks where rest is possible. You notice something else as you move through the city. People sleep in public. On the train, a man in a suit nods off, his head bobbing gently with the motion of the car. At a cafe, a woman rests her head on the table, her eyes closed, her breathing steady. The practice has a name, inner and it is woven into the culture. Sleeping in public is not seen as laziness, but as a sign of hard work, a visible proof that you have pushed yourself to the limit. Companies tolerate it, even accommodate it, recognizing that exhaustion is part of the rhythm of modern life. You find a seat in a 24-hour diner, sliding into a booth near the window. The vinyl is cracked and patched with tape. The table is sticky. You order coffee, and the server brings it quickly, setting the cup down without meeting your eyes. The coffee is bitter and strong, and you sip it slowly, feeling the warmth spread through your chest. Outside, the city continues its restless motion. Crowds still flow across the crossing. Neon signs still flicker and shift. The noise never stops, never fades, never permits you to rest. You feel the weight of the day pressing down on you. Your legs ache from standing on the train. Your eyes burn from staring at screens. Your mind is scattered, jumping between tasks left undone and conversations left unfinished. You know that rest will come, but only when you can no longer stay awake. The city does not grant rest. You must take it, claim it, defend it against a system that offers endless reasons to keep moving. The nocturnal economy relies on the labour of part-time workers in 24-hour gyudon shops, reception staff at capsule hotels, and overnight clerks at manga cafes. Many are students, migrants, or older workers supplementing their income. Their hours are long, contracts are often non-regular, and compensation is modest. Their presence is essential, and their absence is increasingly felt in the void between midnight and the first train. They make the night possible for everyone else, holding open the spaces where rest can be purchased, where exhaustion can be temporarily set aside. You finish your coffee and look out at the crossing. The flow of people has thinned slightly, but it has not stopped. The screens still glow. The shops still hum with fluorescent light. Somewhere across the city, someone else is making the same choice you are. Whether to push through until dawn or find a place to rest. The night offers options, but none of them feel like the quiet your body craves. You stand and step back into the flow, carrying your exhaustion with you, knowing that the city will not slow down to meet your need. The bells have stopped. The curfews have ended. The wooden city has become steel and glass. But the fundamental human need to create boundaries between work and rest remains constant. Both the samurai and the salaryman must shape their days to protect their nights. Both must claim rest against systems that demand more. The external structures have changed dramatically, from temple bells to electric lights, from wooden homes to steel towers. But the discipline has simply changed form. You still carry the day's weight into darkness. You still seek quiet after noise. You still need a moment to lay everything down. Rest is never simply given. It must be earned, honoured and defended now as then. Thank you for drifting through the night with me. If you found comfort here, tap subscribe and like the video. It helps others find a warm place to rest too.